Welcome to Module 8, our final module for this series. Belief is a beautiful armor. And this is truly one of our favorite topics because it affects people of all ages, nationality, class, sex, religion, or other demographics. We're obviously still talking about what it takes to become successful home business owner, but this issue can go much deeper than that and affect other areas in your life, like your personal relationships, for example. So, Jose is going to tell us the number one reason why people say no.
Now, if you've watched your share of training videos, particularly for internet marketing, you're probably expecting me to say that the number one trigger for people to say yes is pleasure, and for no is pain, right? That's probably because that's what everyone else teaches. That people or prospects, if you're taking a business perspective, they say no when the portion of pain will outweigh the portion of pleasure they'll experience. Now, I'm not here to dismiss that theory. I just see a fundamental problem with the theory, and that's this, that we don't actually experience pain or pleasure until after we've said yes or no to something, right? Think about it. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the law of cause and effect, right? So, pain and pleasure are the effect. But what is the cause of a yes or no? So I'm going to share that with you, and I'll give you some examples to support my hypothesis. And keep in mind, this applies to you as an entrepreneur who's trying to understand what triggers your potential customers or prospects from saying, yes, I want to buy from you, or no, I don't. So what is truly the number one reason that people say yes? And in contrast, what is the number one reason that people say no? Let's address this right now. You see, beneath the pain, there's a little something called fear. And fear is the enemy of faith or belief. It's the kryptonite to your Superman, which we all know, was potentially fatal to the Man of Steel, even though he was virtually invincible in every other aspect. But just like kryptonite, fear is only a danger when you allow it to get close enough to you and grab a hold of your mind. Then it can be paralyzing and you will be at your most vulnerable when you give in to fear. The reason we say no to certain things deep down is fear. Fear of pain, fear of failure, fear of loss, disappointment, embarrassment, heartache, etc. But in order to obtain pleasure, which is the effect, we need to have belief in something and we need to practice our belief. Now, you may have heard the verse, faith without works is dead, right? When you believe in something, you say yes. And that doesn't necessarily mean there will be no pain, it just means that the pleasure will be greater. Think about a soldier who dies for his country, giving his or her life as the ultimate sacrifice. There's undoubtedly pain, but the soldier has the belief that through their sacrifice, the world is a better place, a safer place where their children can grow up. Now, soldiers and peacekeepers fight to uphold the freedom of all people and stand up against injustice in the world. Belief is what gives you a worthy enough cause to say yes. Should, could, would.
Now, Jose and I have dealt with issues of fear all of our lives, just as you probably have. I remember during my first pregnancy, because I was going to work at 6:30 a.m. and I would feel scared to be alone even in the safety of my own home. I had that feeling that I was being watched and I would sense things and I would see shadows in the dark and it absolutely terrified me. Now, as a Christian, I had to begin shifting the balance in my mind and in my heart. And I had to stop surrendering to fear and start surrendering to faith. And over the years, not only has the fear of being alone in my house disappeared, but now I try to teach my kids to act through faith to overcome their fears.
Now, you might say, I'm not a Christian, I practice a different religion, or I'm an atheist. Well, truthfully, faith goes by many different names. Other religions might call it belief in a higher power. An atheist might believe in the power of their own will. Those are perfectly valid viewpoints as well. In fact, we know that human will has proven time and time again to defy the logic of science. I remember seeing a story on one of my favorite shows. It's called Weird or What, and it's hosted by William Shatner. And there was a man who was underneath the hood of his car fixing it when suddenly it came crashing down on his chest. Now he yelled for help, and out came his nephew, who was just a skinny little teenager, no more than 120 pounds, but who managed to save his uncle's life by literally lifting the vehicle off from underneath him. Now, you could argue it was a combination of willpower with the fear of seeing his uncle die under the hood of that car. A few months back, I also wrote an article on my blog titled The 4-Minute Mile, the incredible story of Roger Bannister, who's an amateur athlete who was actually majoring in medicine, and he went on to become a distinguished physician. And he was the first man to ever run a mile in just 4 minutes. Now, not only had it never been done before, but nobody even believed that it could be done until Roger Bannister did it. So since then, countless other runners have been able to run the 4-minute mile, including even high school athletes.
That really tells you that people are naturally afraid of the unknown, right? That unless you have that feeling of safety and certainty, we're usually afraid to accept the challenges and face our fears. And you even talked about this in Module 4 when you told our story and the importance of taking action. So let's say that you're in a position like Jose um, was 12 years ago. You have a crush on a pretty girl and you want to go on a date with her, but fear is preventing you from asking her out. You will never take action. And that's so sad because a lot of guys are probably um, one action away from finding their true love.
Yeah, that's why we said that fear is an enemy that can cripple not only your ability to succeed as an entrepreneur, but will also affect other areas of your life as well. But I want to clarify one thing, which is very important, and that's this. There's no such thing as fearlessness, okay? I know if you Google the antonym for fear, you're gonna find fearlessness, but trust me, no one is immune to fear, even the bravest of the brave. Everyone struggles with fear in one capacity or another. It's what makes us human. I personally had a fear of dogs from childhood, even as an adult, because I had been chased by dogs as a kid, and I really never got over that. Then suddenly I married a girl who loves animals and insisted that we needed a pet in the family. And needless to say, I had to overcome my fear, right? Same thing with heights and specifically roller coasters. I hate going on roller coasters because of that feeling you get in your stomach. But this real seeker that I married right here happens to love them, and so does my daughter. So here I go trying to be all macho and impress my girlfriend at the time when we were dating. And even once I'd married her and won her over, she still convinced me to get on those roller coasters with her. In fact, last year I was riding some of them with my kids. But here's the thing, I'm still scared to get on them, and I know it's going to suck when I reach that 50-foot drop or whatever. But I try to man up and just push forward, not backward. Now, if you ask any police officer, firefighter, soldier, or anyone in a dangerous line of work, they'll tell you straight up, fear is part of the job. These are the people who put together sufficient courage, willpower, and faith to overcome their fears. There are many ways that you can fight fear.
So, how do we apply all these in our businesses, Jose? As entrepreneurs who offer products and services to people and often have to deal with either rejection or objection from people who say, no, No, no.
Well, I was actually watching a Ray Higdon video where he was talking about the importance of having posture as a business owner. Naturally, certain people are going to say no to your products or no to joining your team in your network marketing opportunity. But this is how Ray talked about prospecting, and I quote, he said, "I'm not chicken." He said how he wasn't afraid to prospect even his warm market, meaning his friends and family, to see if they might be open minded. And ultimately, he didn't care whether they joined or not, but he was at least going to try to prospect them because, as he put it, he's not chicken. But that video was actually pretty entertaining and thought provoking. So the lesson is basically this: the more you portray yourself with posture, confidence, and authority, you'll not only be overcoming your fears, but your prospects will begin to see you as a real leader. And suddenly, a lot of those no's will begin turning into yeses. Now, as you can see, I've got one of my role models up on the slide here, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, somebody I looked up to way before he was even a Hollywood movie star. But The Rock is a perfect example of someone who carries himself with posture and confidence. Notice the way he holds his chin up high in this picture. It's kind of like saying, "What, you got a problem? Come at me, bro." That's the kind of posture it takes to be a successful entrepreneur.
Brilliant advice. I love it. Now, before we conclude this module, Jose is going to share one final thought about what it takes to overcome fear. And I know you've been looking forward to sharing this analogy with our audience because you love superheroes so much, don't you?
Guilty as charged, baby. And even though this guy isn't my favorite superhero, I think his character and the theme surrounding his story is perfectly suited for what we're discussing here. So if you happen to guess the Green Lantern, you've hit the nail right on the head. In the story of the Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, aka the Green Lantern, he uses his ring to create anything that he can conceive with the power of his will. Kinda like what we talked about, right? And coincidentally enough, the Green Lanterns can only be defeated when they give in to, you guessed it, fear. Now, whichever one is stronger than the other determines the victor between good and evil. So, I'm going to close with a monologue from the Green Lantern movie, but I highly recommend you watch it on YouTube. It'll be much more dramatic. All you got to do is search Green Lantern versus Parallax. That's the villain in the movie. So here's the monologue. Parallax says to him, "I feel your fear growing. You will be dead soon." And in the meantime, the Green Lantern begins reciting his pledge: "In brightest day, in blackest night." And Parallax says, "When you're gone, I'll destroy everything you ever loved." And Green Lantern replies, "No evil shall escape my sight." Parallax again counters. He says, "Your family, your home, your planet will be no more." The Green Lantern is not even paying attention. He just continues reciting his pledge: "Let those who worship evil's might." And Parallax is still trying to get in his head with fear. He says, "The entire human race will be wiped out because you, Hal Jordan, were afraid." And Green Lantern finally finishes, "Beware my power, Green Lantern's light." That's belief.
I know that's Jose's favorite part of the movie, and my two boys who are 7 and 9 also love that movie. Superheroes might be characters of fiction that we only see in movies or in a comic book, but heroes are real and they are everyday people like you and me. The nurse working a double shift at the hospital saving people's life is a hero. The firefighter who's risked his life running into burning buildings is a hero. The mother who keeps her toddler safe and warm is a hero to that child. As we prepare to conclude this mini series, I want to encourage you to begin seeing yourself as a hero because in order for you to succeed in your home business, you will need to overcome your fears and let your belief guide you all the way.